Hello and welcome to At His Pace. And today we are going to discuss something called the blame game. And my husband just said that he has no idea what the blame game is. Anyway, in marriage, it is easy to point the finger at what your spouse is or is not doing. But the famous adage is, while you are pointing your finger at somebody else, you have 3 or 4 fingers pointing back at you. And so all we really want to stop by to tell you all today is that the blame game is something that we are very much victims of. We are guilty of it. Immediately when something goes wrong in our family, our first inclination is to say, well, what did he do wrong? Or if he would just, or if he never says it about me because I don't do anything wrong. But what is the other person's responsibility in this role? And often we don't think about what our own responsibility is. And I think I've said this over and over again, just like the young lady couple years ago was putting on her seatbelt and she kept on telling her daddy, worry about yourself, daddy, worry about yourself, worry about yourself. And so I think in terms of blame, I think the reason why we reach to it initially is because it frees us in some ways of guilt. And it gives us an opportunity to say that you don't have responsibility in it. I don't have responsibility in it. And so therefore I don't have to change. But guess what? All good marriages are built on the ability to confront oneself and change oneself. I think that's the most valuable thing that I learned in counseling. I thought we were in counseling to fix Mark because of what he brought to the table, but I learned pretty quickly that it wasn't about him. The situation that he caused took us to counseling, but it certainly opened the door to my own issues and maybe why I was not making it a safe place for Mark in the first place. And so I had to own my own stuff. I had to pick up my own bags and unpack them so that we can move forward in our relationship. And I don't honestly know that it would have changed much if what are you doing?
Keep pointing the fingers at me.
I don't know if it would have ever changed much if I hadn't decided that I had a role in the wrong that was going on in our relationship.
And I think it's very challenging because a lot of times you want to blame the other person because most of the time we react to something that they do. And so we place blame of that reaction on them. If they hadn't done that, then I wouldn't have responded the manner in which I responded. And 9 times out of 10, it's us. And so we have to learn how to be within ourselves and to handle our own dysfunction. And that's hard to do when you have to look in the mirror and deal with your own faults.
So how did you do that though, Mark? How did you finally come to the decision that you had to worry about yourself? What do you think changed or impacted you to do that?
Well, I think the more that certain situations kept recurring, you almost have to say, okay, I keep failing this test or this keeps reoccurring. And you have to kind of evaluate yourself. And even if you don't really want to, you almost have to say, there might be something wrong with me. And so you almost question that. And then from there, you kind of observe. And if you're not really fond of that personality or that character flaw that you're showing, you have to make the correction.
Yeah. I just thought about something. When you think about the word blame, it really sounds like be lame. And so be lame allows me to not have any responsibility. And so when I blame, I can be lame and not force myself to look at what's going on in my own life. And so blame is not you like that? Blame is not a tactic or a strategy that's going to help you be productive, because while I'm consistently talking about what Mark is doing, I'm lame enough to not believe that I have a role or responsibility in it. And so you're either going to continue to blame or be lame and destroy your marriage, or you're going to either own up and be responsible for your part. Even if it's a little bitty part, it's a part.
But I think too that whole blame thing is taking on the characteristic of the enemy of our soul, because that's what he does.
Exactly.
He
He's an
blames.
accuser.
He's an
Accuser
accuser.
of the brethren. I just
And
heard that
so,
today.
and so that's all he does. He goes before God and he just blames and accuses. And so, not taking onus for what his part in it, but he's putting the blame on us when we fall into diverse temptations or sin. And so he's continuously just blaming and accusing, and we take on that. I mean, that's in us.
Yeah.
If sin is in us, then that's in us. And so we have to really be mindful and operate in love, and not necessarily get caught up in placing blame, but accept full responsibility for what our actions are and the dysfunction that we carry.
I like that. So when we're blaming, we are partnering with the accuser of our soul. And so therefore we are being lame like the enemy of our soul.
Oh, yeah.
We're being lame. So do you want to partner with the enemy of your soul and continue to be lame, your spouse? I'm going with it. I'm going with it. Or do you want to be mature and understand that there's a role? And even again, if there's a small role that you're playing by not praying for your spouse, by not being the best spouse that you can be, then there's a problem and there's an issue. And I'm done.
And I'm done. So we want you to be well and be blessed.
Don't be lame.
Yeah, don't be
or
lame.
be lame.
Yeah, marriage rocks.